Welcome, everybody. For the Do Now today, I would like you to teach me what nonviolent resistance is. This was in the reading yesterday. Nonviolent resistance is kind of a weird phrase because resistance means to fight back, nonviolent means to do it not fighting. Right? It's kind of a weird um, idea. But nonviolent resistance means to peacefully fight back, peacefully try and change the system. We've learned a lot of examples of this so far in this class. We've talked about marches, sit ins, boycotts. All these are examples of peaceful protesting, peaceful but demanding change. And that's going to be kind of our focus for the next 2 days because this is a big part of the civil rights movement of the 60s, the 50s, and the 60s, and one of the reasons why it's successful. So, nonviolent resistance is defined as creating social change through peaceful protest. And that's going to be the philosophy of many of the civil rights leaders during the 1960s, is that they are going to use peaceful protest means. Even when the police, the anti-protesters are violent, they are going to remain peaceful. They are not going to physically fight back. They are not going to harm people, kill people. They're not going to burn down businesses, destroy property. It's going to be peaceful all the time, no matter what the other side says. We've also talked about this phrase, and this is going to be something used as well as civil disobedience, breaking the law, peacefully breaking laws that you know to be wrong. If there's a law that you find to be unjust and immoral, you're going to break it as a form of protest. So Rosa Parks is a good example of this. She purposely broke the law on purpose because she knew that that law was wrong and she wanted to change it. So those are sort of our two big ideas we're going to be talking about when people are protesting, is they're using these different means of doing it. We are going to be talking about different leaders of the civil rights movement in the 60s and why they're influential and what they did and how they pushed their nonviolent resistance ideas. Today we're going to be looking at Martin Luther King. He is sort of looked as the unofficial leader of the nonviolent resistance. He was by far the biggest civil rights leader of the 60s, maybe the biggest of all time in the United States. And his views, his ideas, his opinions influenced a lot of people. And a lot of people followed his way of protest as being the way to protest and the way to get things done. So his ideas were very influential on the 1960s in the way people protested. And still today, people look at his words and use them as inspiration for protest and creating change. So, over the next 2 days, we're going to talk about some major events that happened in the civil rights movement, but are all nonviolent resistance led by major leaders trying to create change. So, the first one is going to be called the Birmingham Youth Protest. You can see these are all in sort of like the early mid 1960s. So, to give you some frame of reference, Kennedy is president but assassinated in 1963. So, he is assassinated after both of these events. But Vietnam is heating up. So 1964 is when things really get out of hand and America starts sending troops. The space race is going on. Cuba is going on. All this Cold War stuff is happening while this stuff happens. We'll start with the Birmingham Youth Protest. This is going to be a bunch of high school students who are going to walk out of school because they're not getting equal access to education. They don't feel like they're getting a fair education, so they're going to march down the streets of Birmingham, Alabama. It's one of those southern states that still has a lot of Jim Crow laws and a lot of fighting. So they're just going to peacefully walk down the street in protest. And the police are going to show up to stop them. And they're not going to peacefully ask them to go home or anything. They're going to send out the police dogs. You can see in this picture, the dogs are going to start attacking and biting these people. And these are teenagers. A lot of them are your age. And here we can see a young man being attacked by a dog, being bit. He's going to get physically attacked by the police because he's walking down the street. That's essentially his crime. It's not going to end there. The fire department's going to show up and start spraying everybody with hoses. I know if you've never seen a fire hose in action, this is a high, powerful hose. To get hit by one hurts. Right? It's not like kill you, but like hit the wrong way, it could break some bones. It's definitely going to leave bruises. It's going to knock you off your feet. It's going to hurt you. And they're going to break out these hoses and start spraying people down to try and get them to leave. Right, here shows some of the power of that. And these aren't people who are fighting back. They're not trying to attack the police. They're not trying to attack the fire department. They're standing there peacefully. Right in this previous picture, their hands are on their heads. They're sitting down peacefully, and they're still going to get attacked. And the deal with this protest, one, it's just absolutely awful to happen to anybody, but it's happening to teenage students who are just peacefully walking down the street. What makes this significant is this is all on camera. This is going to be on the news. And Americans and people around the world are going to watch this. And a lot of Americans are at home who didn't have a whole lot of interactions with African Americans are going to see this and start questioning, what are we doing as a country? Why is this allowed? This wouldn't be acceptable in a white community. Why is it acceptable in a black community? And a lot of people are going to be embarrassed that this happens, and it makes us look just as bad as the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union shuts down protests, not the United States. All right, so this is going to be really bad for the United States, but it's going to open a lot of eyes and it'll create a lot of change. All right, we're going to watch a video as a class about the protest. You can pause this video while we watch. All right, so later that year, there's going to be a major protest in Washington, D.C. It's the March on Washington for Jobs and Equality. All right, so it's not necessarily about segregation anymore, but it's about getting equal chances at jobs and career opportunities and equality. What's significant about this is it's not in Alabama or in Arkansas. It's not in the South anymore, where the police have all the power. Right? It's in DC, the nation's capital, because this is a national issue. This is a problem the whole country has to address, not just these small towns. And it's going to be a very big, you can see the tens of thousands of people who showed up. They're going to protest for several days, and this is going to be the moment where Martin Luther King gives his famous I Have a Dream speech. A very significant moment in front of the Lincoln Memorial, and again, a moment caught on camera that the whole country is going to see and watch, and it's going to have a big impact. So again, we'll pause this video to watch a couple of videos about the I Have a Dream speech. So your activity today is to find some important quotes from Martin Luther King. Right? He's such an inspiration to a lot of people. His impact is still felt today, almost 60 years since he's died. So I want you to find some important quotes and things he said that mean something to you. Right? Find something he has said in a speech or in writing that still resonates to you as important for our country. So find the quote. Then I want you to explain to me, what does that mean in your own words? And then last, I want you to explain to me, why is this important? Why is this significant in the 1960s, the time when he said it, but also why is it significant today, decades later? Why do we care what he said?